Chapter 10, 33. Taking large strides with unwavering determination. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Southern border, on the peak of a nameless mountain. Fang Yuan held Sword Escape Immortal Gu in his left hand and Flying Sword Gu in his right hand. He observed them. Sword Escape Immortal Gu was like a golden bee, while Flying Sword Immortal Gu was like a silver-winged dragonfly. Both had their merits. The first was a movement Immortal Gu. It was extremely fast, not inferior to the rank 7 Chi Escape Immortal Gu. The second was very famous in history. It was Bo Qing's most used offensive and defensive Gu worm. The aura of rank 7 was oozing. Fang Yuan smiled as he stored the two Immortal Gu. After Yitian Mountain, the Sword Path Immortal Gu were all successfully refined under the light of wisdom, becoming Fang Yuan's Gu. These two Immortal Gu were among them. Fang Yuan could use them now. With these two Immortal Gu, Fang Yuan felt more assured about his safety. Earlier, he had Attitude Gu, Change Soul Immortal Gu, and Unravel Mystery Immortal Gu. He lacked movement and attacking methods. With these two Immortal Gu now, Fang Yuan's weakness was alleviated. His battle strength surged. If he met Huo Kongdong again, Fang Yuan could use his Immortal Gu to kill him. He had stopped using Connecting Heaven Gu. Because Langya Land's spirit sent Sword Escape and Flying Sword, two rank 7 Immortal Gu, Treasure Yellow Heaven was in a commotion. More and more Gu Immortals were joining in and discussing the matter. In the Gu Immortal world, rank 6 Gu Immortals were the majority. And among them, a large portion did not have any rank 6 Immortal Gu. Thus, this transaction that involved two rank 7 Immortal Gu had such a huge impact. Treasure Yellow Heaven was an open market. Secrets could not be kept. Fang Yuan had no choice but to use Treasure Yellow Heaven to transport his Immortal Gu. After obtaining two Sword Path Immortal Gu, he stopped using Connecting Heaven Gu, allowing Treasure Yellow Heaven to dwell in that commotion on its own. Using Moving Perspective Cup Gu, he continued to communicate with Langya Land Spirit. Just now, you spent 30 SEC contribution points, Langya Land Spirit said. Ko, it was not free to use Treasure Yellow Heaven to transport Gu worms. Treasure Yellow Heaven would take a cut from every transaction. According to the Treasure Light, the higher it was, the larger the processing fee. The processing fee was paid by Langya Land Spirit. He converted them into SEC contribution points in Langya Sect and deducted them from Fang Yuan. Thus, Fang Yuan's SEC contribution points fell. He had 270 left. Of course, a portion of the 30 points had been used on Fang Yuan's purchase of different Mortal Gu. I want to talk to you about the trade of Guts Gu, Fang Yuan replied. This discussion took a long time. Only until late at night, both sides came to a detailed agreement, concluding their negotiation. Trade of Guts Gu. Fang Yuan's eyes shone. Excitement was still lingering on his face. The winds of night blew. They were cold but were unable to extinguish the fire inside him. All along, Fang Yuan's Guts Gu trade had been restricted by the number of hairy man-slaves. Because Guts Gu needed Airsak Gu as the container to leave Donghun Mountain and to be sold outside, but Airsak Gu needed He Lulan's Strength Chi Immortal Gu as the Gu refinement material, and the hairy man slaves needed to refine it continuously. Now He Lulan was missing, and Strength Chi Immortal Gu was not with Fang Yuan. But this was okay. Long ago, Fang Yuan had used the light of wisdom to deduce a new recipe. He had been keeping it a secret because he wanted to maintain his cooperation with He Lulan. Therefore, the number of hairy man slaves was the main limitation towards this trade. And it was very difficult to increase the number of hairy man slaves. Firstly, hairy man slaves were the most expensive among variant human slaves in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Especially those skilled in refinement, they were even pricier. Secondly, the process of refining Gu was filled with danger. Hairy man slaves would die during the process. Thus, even though Fang Yuan replenished many hairy man slaves inside Hu Immortal Blessed Land, their numbers did not increase. Fang Yuan wanted to raise his own hairy men, but because he did not have the methods to do so, he could not execute this idea. But right now, Fang Yuan had joined Langya Sect. How many hairy men were there in Langya blessed land? It was an unimaginable number. This blessed land was perhaps the most populous location for hairy men in the whole 5 regions. Fang Yuan had his motives in lending Donghun Mountain and Luopo Valley to Langya sect. Using the vast number of hairy men in Langya blessed land to refine air sac gu for him, the number of guts gu produced would far exceed Fang Yuan's previous scale. His profits would rise to an unprecedented level. As long as it is inside treasure yellow heaven, even if Central Continent attempts to suppress it, so what? The trade of guts gu will not be affected. I am really excited. According to our negotiation, even if Lang Ya sect takes more than half of the benefits, my profits each month from the guts gu trade would reach 6,000 immortal essence stones. Before this, Fang Yan's total profits, including his other businesses, only reached 2,000 immortal essence stones a month. Now that he joined Lang Ya sect, with just the guts gu trade, he could obtain 6,000 immortal essence stones a month. This was a number that many rank 6 gu immortals could not imagine. After rebirth, Fang Yuan had joined Lang Ya sect after deep and careful consideration. Firstly, one day, when Fang Yuan faces the pursuit of the entire world, which place was more reliable than Lang Ya blessed land? Others were targeting Fang Yuan's giant son true inheritance, but they were also after Lang Ya blessed land. After Lang Ya land's spirit transformed, he wanted to strengthen the hairy man race. He was a natural ally for Fang Yuan. Secondly, Lang Ya blessed land was very powerful. It resisted 7 waves of attacks in the 500 years of his previous life. Thirdly, Lang Ya land's spirit could not lie. Fang Yuan would easily sense it should he decide to turn on him. With these 3 reasons, Fang Yuan joined Lang Ya sect. Indeed, on the first night after reviving, he obtained a huge benefit. Fang Yuan not only used Lang Ya land's spirit to solve his dangerous situation, he even used Lang Ya blessed land's foundation to increase his wealth. I have passed the weakest period after revival. Now I need to inspect my 9-5 sovereign immortal aperture. This was a night without stars in the sky. Cold winds were blowing. Fang Yuan entered the house gu. After eating food, he inspected his immortal aperture. With so many mortal gu, his efficiency in inspecting it was higher. It was a sleepless night. Around dawn, Fang Yuan left the 3-star cave gu, seeing the start of the sunrise. Southern border was mountainous and foggy. When the sun rises, it would make the direction where it was facing look like a burning cloud. As the sun rose, the first light of dawn could be seen as golden red traces. Soon, light burst out, bringing heat along with it, like metal that had just come out of the furnace. The morning sun ascended slowly. The clouds between the mountain peaks were moving about. Beautiful lights were created after the rays of sunlight hit them. There were gorgeous red clouds in the sky. In Fang Yuan's heart, a grand feeling of ambition was brewing. Now, ambitious mountains with steps firm as steel, taking large strides with unwavering determination. Taking risks to obtain the essence of the universe, my heart still seeks to rise beyond heaven. As he recited, Fang Yuan opened his arms like a bird, jumping down the cliff before ascending rapidly. It was as if he was stepping on the clouds, flying towards the southeast direction. After this night, he gained a greater understanding of the sovereign immortal aperture. The immortal aperture had a huge space of over 335,000 square kilometers. Not just that, there were rich time path resources. One day in the outside world was 2 months inside the sovereign immortal aperture. Hei Lu Lan's aperture, with her having the great strength true martial physique, was only at a 1:38 ratio with the outside world's time. But Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal aperture was 1:60. It greatly exceeded that of Hei Lu Lan. But compared to the space in the immortal aperture, the time path aspect was not as impressive. But this was a huge relief to Fang Yuan. When the time flow in the immortal aperture was fast, calamities and tribulations would occur more frequently, and Fang Yuan would have bigger problems dealing with them. Perhaps Spectral Soul had considered this point when he was refining the gu. At a ratio of 1:60, it surpassed super-grade blessed lands, but was not too exaggerated. Fang Yuan could handle it, although with difficulty. Other than time path resources, Fang Yuan also found 16 beads of green grape immortal essence in his sovereign immortal aperture. An immortal aperture that was alive was different from a dead one. It could produce immortal essence. 16 beads of immortal essence in a day, that meant 480 in a month. It was extraordinary, far surpassing Fang Yuan's previous life. Fang Yuan also found that his body was full of Dao marks. These Dao marks were of all paths: fire path, water path, wood path, light path, dark path, even poison path and luck path were encompassed within. What shocked Fang Yuan more was that these Dao marks were not just high in variety, they were also of a large quantity. He could vaguely estimate that on average, each path had around 100 Dao marks. 100 Dao marks could amplify the effect of goo worms by 10%. No wonder Fang Yuan could use the fire path fire cape goo and flying smoke goo to such an extent. But this discovery did not make Fang Yuan happy. He felt a bit grim. Goo immortals usually pursued one type of Dao mark. Because Dao marks could amplify the effect of goo worms, they could also weaken and counteract them. For example, when a goo immortal who cultivates water path and has water path Dao marks all over their body uses a fire path mortal goo, the effect would be worse than a mortal goo master. Even if goo immortals cultivated more than one path, they would choose one to be primarily used. This was common sense in the goo immortal world. But strangely, I used the mortal goo of so many paths, but I did not feel any resistance and weakening from the Dao marks of other paths. In fact, the amplification is working normally. This goes against the logic of the cultivation world. What is going on? There is another point. Any goo master who ascends to immortal has a vital goo, but my sovereign immortal aperture does not have one. What is going on? Towards the mystical properties of the sovereign immortal aperture, the deeper Fang Yuan explored it, the more questions appeared in his mind. I have already used all my methods for yesterday's investigation. It seems that to understand the mysteries behind the sovereign immortal aperture, I need to get answers from Spectral Soul, Shadow Sect, and Ying Wuxi. But near Yitian Mountain, the changes are too large. With the Dream Realm manifested, Southern Border Goo Immortals would seal it up and turn it into a forbidden area for outsiders. And I also do not know Ying Wuxi's location. Forget it. The matter at hand is to find Southern Border's current generation, Nixiang.